Well, let's talk now to Gunter Kuhnle, who's a food scientist at the University of Reading. Welcome to the programme. Good to see you. We've had this large study. Is it the first time such a strong link's been made between ultra-processed food and health problems?
Actually, the study is a summary of studies that have been published. It's a summary of studies. So it's based on not new evidence, but it's an attempt to combine all the evidence that is available.
So what did these studies find? Why are, according to these studies, ultra-processed foods so harmful?
I think there are many reasons for that. I think one reason is that people who consume a lot of ultra-processed food tend to have a less healthy diet or less healthy lifestyle than other people. So there's a little bit of, it's a little bit more complicated. Then there are some ultra-processed foods which fall into the category of so-called junk foods, which are high in salt, fat and sugar, where we know that have an adverse effect on health. So there are a lot of ultra-processed foods, such like soft drinks, where we already know they have an adverse effect on health. But there are also many which have no adverse effect on health whatsoever.
Well, I want to unpick that a little bit, because critics will say that this study doesn't actually prove cause and effect, that it's perhaps not the processing of the food, but the ingredients within them that can be implicated in these poorer health outcomes. What do you think?
Well, the authors themselves say that the study doesn't show causality, so it's not just critics. I think these kind of studies can't show causality by their very nature. And it is right, we don't know that processing really has such an effect on health, especially it is very difficult to distinguish between the processing and the ultra-processing, because there's not really a clear definition in many instances where one would draw the line. One is most likely the texture, so that it becomes more palatable, it becomes easier to chew. But a lot of processed foods are easy to chew. So that is sort of the difficulty to distinguish between the two and whether it's really ultra-processing that is a problem, or processing itself.
One thing we can say, though, is that we're all eating more processed foods. Why are people eating more now?
Well, I'm not sure whether we all eat more processed food. I think processing has been around for a very, very long time, probably since humans have started to move around, because processing is a way to make food safe, to keep it on. Cooking is a process. If you think of canning, a lot of processing has been done to preserve food, preserves, for example. But of course, processed food can be cheaper because of the shelf life is longer, because resources can be used better. Processed food is, it can be stored maybe easier. So there are a lot of factors around there, and it's not really that easy to say there's one single factor. I'm sure the food system plays an important role. So these foods are easy to manufacture, often they're easy to distribute.
Well, you suggested there that some of the perhaps benefits of processed foods, easier, cheaper, widely available. Should we be demonising those people who rely on these foods?
Definitely not. We should never demonize food. I think it's a very bad idea to demonize or put bad or negative emotions onto food. We should accept that there's a wide range of foods, some of which are very healthy, some of which are not very healthy. But a human diet is quite complex, and I think we need to accept that food, actually we need to celebrate that food is not just there to keep us alive. It has a huge social factor. So I think food is such a complex thing, and that to sort of narrow it down on a very ambiguous criterion and on data which are, as the authors admit, fairly weak, I think this is not really helpful to find a solution to give everyone a better diet.
Gunter, good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. That's Gunter Kuhnle from the University of Reading.